Welcome to 3 on the Ones and Twos with your hosts, Tom, Cassie, and James. Just 3 old friends talking about their favorite records. Think of it as the coolest book club for music nerds.
That was really, really good. I'm so excited. Guys, well, first things first, we're trying to do things right and set a good example for other humans. Welcome to the 3 on the Ones and Twos. And thank you with Trackside for hosting.
Thank you, Trackside.
We appreciate it. Thank you, PBR.
Thank you.
My favorite things in life are hanging out with people I love, talking about things that I love. And music has saved me and changed me and rearranged me a million times. I'm going to pass this over to my friend James, who is going to introduce our wonderful guest who has impeccable taste in music.
Impeccable.
And well, I'm just going to stop right there.
It's true, though.
We're trying to make we just want. Let's get to the meat. Let's get to the meat of the study. Boom, James.
Okay. Well, when we were doing episodes and kind of thinking about different artists, and I thought of maybe a Zombies record to do Odyssey and Oracle, and I thought that
Which one we may do soon.
which we may do soon,
Which I
and
also love.
Yeah.
which I thought of Virginia as our as like a good person to talk to about this
Thank
record,
you.
and but then you came back, and
Which we love.
You had different, but and I've known you back mainly from the days when you worked at Aurora with my friends Mathis and Rich, and
Beautiful,
you were
yeah.
like in that whole crew.
Yeah.
So it was always fun for me to take a break from work, come in, get an afternoon coffee,
Talk
say
about
hello,
Roxy music
and
for-
talk about
Oh my
Roxy
goodness.
music and Brian Ferry.
Okay,
and,
so that's
and
it.
all
We
those
have
things.
2 more episodes.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
We love music, but we love people who love music. So, who's your friend? Tell us about her.
Virginia DeRosa.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
the minute he said that you were gonna, the minute
Yeah.
he said, I'm thinking of, like, I would like to ask, I was like, yes, I love
Yeah.
her. So yeah, like,
Yeah, thank you so much for being on the show, and thank you for picking this record, which you're going to
Yes.
tell us what it is. in a minute.
Yeah.
Because the whole idea of this show is for us to get turned on to things that might be new or revisit things.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then the viewer, the
Hopefully.
listener, whatever, we get notes from people in England and in Canada saying, oh, I hadn't thought about that record. Thanks so much. And I'm one of those people right now. Because I've
Totally.
been listening to this record, and
Since
on
you
a
picked
scale
it.
of 1 to 10, it's a 13. So,
Oh, really great.
I mean, I didn't make it, but yes, you're right.
So tell us about it.
So yeah, just to, we're shining a little light on the Byrds' Sweetheart of the Rodeo today.
There you go.
Yes.
The
Look at
classic
that.
1968 album that was their departure from their typical like psychedelia, where they had really.
Wow,
And this was not well received. I think it was the worst selling
Yeah.
Byrds album.
But also, was this like a savior in many
But
ways?
in so many ways, it completely changed music in general.
yeah.
In my life,
But-
truly.
okay, so maybe you know this because, and we'll talk about Gram Parsons and,
Yeah.
and how his involvement in this, but like, because this is something I didn't really notice, did Gram Parsons at least receive, because the whole album is kind of like controversial
Much
about his
respect
like,
to
role
Gram
in it.
Parsons.
Much,
Oh my
much
goodness.
respect, because he
Yeah.
actually, but did he go on after this to receive like, I mean, I had heard the name
I would
before,
say-
so it's like, I would think.
Like, I would say before this, just to backtrack a little bit, he was International Submarine Band, which was Lee Hazelwood's record label. And that album is honestly wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's actually really the first
Right.
country rock album.
I think so. I would agree
Yeah.
with you. Yeah. And before that, he was doing like folk, and he was going to Harvard. Nice little rich boy that nobody really talks about at that point, but like,
Right.
he was.
Sure.
But like good heart in the right
But
place.
he's from like
You know.
Waycross, Georgia,
But he was
isn't
just
he?
right? He lived there for a time. He was from Florida as well. But like, yeah, after this, this was kind of right around the time that he was also like immediately after this, or I guess a couple years later, like he goes, Flying Burrito Brothers, they do their
Yes.
thing. Chris Hillman
Oh
leaves
my-
the Byrds, does
There's
that.
so many,
Yeah.
talk about a family tree
Right.
of pre and post. That's 10 episodes,
True,
of
truly.
Byrds, yeah.
or just wonderful David Crosby. I mean, like it's unbelievable.
Right after Crosby left.
It was right after Crosby
Right.
left, and that's kind of how, or that's one of the reasons why Gram Parsons got involved, right?
Yes, and I think this was kind of the beginning of people like picking him, kind of like the Stones picked him for Exile and kind of just vampired him, which that's like, obviously one of the best albums of all time.
I think it's
Virginia,
the best double album of all time.
Yeah.
And you
truly.
actually said, I want to do that record, and I was like, well, if we want to talk about Gram Parsons, maybe we should go with Sweetheart of the Rodeo. I do think Gram Parsons this is his episode in a way. The Byrds record is one example of his time, but I look at it as his entire catalog. I make a playlist that's just like International Submarine Band, Sweetheart of the Rodeo, the Fine Brio Brothers.
If you're gonna listen to
his solo
Gram
records,
Parsons, greatest hits on a Saturday at your barbecue,
it covers like 5 bands, but it's all him.
But the thing is, it really does. It covers like almost every genre, every genre of music that we love too.
Right. Well, definitely. Well, it's interesting that you brought up, I didn't know that he played on a Stones album as well.
The best.
But it's interesting that, because some people would say, well, McGuinn would say that that's why he left the Byrds. Well, he will say that the reason he left was because he didn't want to go play in South Africa with apartheid going on.
I think it was artistic differences with McGuinn.
Well, they were definitely a lot going on. But he was friends with, from their time in London, he was friends with Mick Jagger and Keith Richards, and they were like, well, he just wanted to stay and hang out with Mick Jagger and Keith Richards.
I mean, you can't say no.
I was going to say that sounds.
Hey, do you want to hang out in France and make the best record ever?
You want to hang out in France and Mick Jagger, Keith Richards?
And then you get kicked out because you introduce heroin and the Stones are falling apart in this mansion in France.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say I picked this album because, growing up, it was rock and roll, it was ZZ Top, it was Derek and the Dominos, REM all day long.
Rest in peace.
And this was the only country album that was in our house that my dad had.
Wow.
And so I was always kind of it felt like I was like, is he putting on the church music today?
Wow, this was your church music.
Kind of.
There's kind of a gospel element. I mean,
There is.
I think Gram Parsons' style is it's country, but there is a gospel.
Well, it's such a funny thing because you think of California or like Echoes in the Canyon or
Joshua Tree,
70s Americana, but they were channeling 50s. That's what I was trying to say earlier. So I've been thinking about all these things I wanted to say to you. And I'm like, well, save it for the show, show. But I mean, this straight up just 50s, like Chuck Berry riffs. Well, we know, it's a rock and roll record with gorgeous
Gram
Mel
Parsons
harmonies,
dubbed it cosmic. Was it Americana? Cosmic American music.
And would you say
California Cosmic?
Which
Desert,
honestly,
country. Yeah.
Originally the plan with McGuinn and Hillman, they were planning on making. It was a concept album where they covered the evolution of different genres in American music.
And it's funny because that truly is, to me, this was my introduction to country, and so many, some of the best songs, You Don't Miss Your Water.
Yeah.
That's a soul song.
Love that
song. But that's American music.
Yeah.
And country music still to this day hasn't achieved as doing it as well. The players on it. I mean, it's unbelievable.
I was very lucky I caught the 50th anniversary show.
And
that was amazing.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did
and
you?
then I saw the pedal steel players. I worked at a record store in Nashville, Grimey's. And they played. The original pedal steel players from this album came and played at the shop.
Wow.
And it was just are you kidding?
In Nashville?
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
that's so
What year was
pedal
this?
steel, 3 years ago.
Which I think is really sad about because
Yeah.
they recorded this in Nashville and they played the Grand Ole Opry and it was it was not well
was
received
not
because the traditional country people and the Nashville big followers, they were long-haired hippies playing our music, but then their fans
the
didn't
Byrds and Willie Nelson weren't received well by those people.
Yeah.
This is what I gotta
But
say. 'Cause
later-
we love this stuff.
But
you
I
know.
mean, this album has gone on to be like so influential and like so.
Totally.
You would say it's probably the most in the modern era. Like this is the Byrds album that people
Right.
go to the most.
But that's
and
the
that's
funny
a testament to Gram Parsons.
Yeah, but that's the
You
funny
know?
thing because it wasn't received well in the beginning. And what we love about doing, the whole idea of this show is for us to like, well, let's not talk about the album everyone else and their mother talked about. Let's talk about,
Yeah.
let's find the dirt underneath the fingernails. You know what I mean? And it's so funny that now people love this record, but for
Right.
years no one loved it.
Yeah.
Or
it was just a different kind of it was always like that for me. It was like this one's special. But and even as a kid I was like, I like it, I'm a little confused, and of course I loved country music later in life. So this
Yeah.
was really
That was your
it is the
gateway
whole-
for
yes.
our generation. This is a gateway record to country music. But also, the one point I was going to make that was interesting is that Gram Parsons my understanding is he wasn't allowed to sing on this record.
No, he did, but there was
So-
talk
How
about
does that
So
work out?
very-
I read
I could go on.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
know.
because it's very
Please do.
And I think especially after seeing Chris Hillman and Roger McGuinn in
Yeah.
person, I could kind of see there's still the okay, he didn't make the whole album,
Sure.
but you could definitely see that they butted heads, and there was a power struggle there.
there's egos involved, and there's
Graham's vocals were taken down.
They
a whole
were
bunch, and-
well. The thing was really, I think there was a lot with McGuinn and Parsons. There was a lot of Gram Parsons had a vision, and he got into the band because I think McGuinn wanted somebody that could play. Was it kind of bluegrass piano?
I'm not
or was
sure.
it,
I definitely know. I mean, he was folksy as all can be,
Right.
before you
Yeah.
know.
Well, the thing is, I think that he kind of pretended so that he could get.
Yeah.
He really had a goal.
to get the
I mean,
gig.
if
to
he
get
was into,
involved so that he
To
had a
get the
so
gig,
because the
yeah,
Byrds
yeah.
were pretty well known by then.
They know they
so
were
he had so
they
they
were-
They were
had
the top of the heap.
The
that-
Byrds of the band, no one admits it was the most influential, but
I mean,
they were
yeah.
they were like the underdogs
That-
of all of it. you know?
but so that gave getting
Yeah.
into the Byrds gave him a platform
Right.
for his vision, and so I think after a little while, I think originally he had recorded the vocals were mostly all his.
And then
Or,
they,
like, most
and then
of
they
it.
got buried.
And
They
then-
got buried.
Well, I think he was still under contract with LHI.
Yeah.
But so McGuinn and Hillman. I think Hillman was more leaning more towards Parsons' side,
Right.
but I think McGuinn was really there was a conflict, and McGuinn will say, "Oh, it was because he was under contract and legal things,"
Right.
but really, other people will say those legal things were taken care of.
Yeah.
And it was mostly because of the power dynamics. They
what
didn't
it's-
really want to.
That's
Yeah.
what it always kind of seemed like to me,
Yeah.
and I can kind of hear that. Also, I would just like to point out, and I did look this up, but they released Notorious Byrd Brothers 8 months before they recorded
Sure.
this. So I'm
Yeah.
like, how do you do that? How do you
Right.
get to?
Well, you bring in a
the best
ringer
album?
like Gram
Like
Parsons,
Gram
who
Parsons.
brings in a
A
whole
ringer.
yeah,
new.
and he's I hate this
Group.
word, but he's like the game. He's the game
He's
changer.
a force
Well,
of
yeah.
nature.
So-
He
And
did
he
change
gave
it.
them
He absolutely-
he gave the
he-
Byrds a second
He had his
a
vision.
second life. basically.
What do you call it?
That they could-
a new lease on
Yeah, because they would have
Yeah.
kind of, if they didn't have Graham and they didn't go in this direction, they wouldn't have gone too much further than Notorious.
It would have
I don't think they would
It
have.
may have been done.
Who knows?
It may have
I mean,
been.
you
It may have been done
It
after that.
shuffled things up, you know.
Yeah.
It
really.
did, but
I
he
think
had
it kind of
but he-
reinvigorated them.
He had a vision,
and
but I
gave them
think
a new
that
direction to go in.
I think he kind of he didn't dance around the power dynamics well because he was pushing for it to be named Gram Parsons and the Byrds.
That
and he
ain't
was
gonna
pushing
happen.
for it's
That's not gonna
and
happen.
already the minute you start bringing that up, you know that
Yeah.
people are gonna. So they
Oh, no.
redid his lyrics.
there was some
Very
redid his
there was some
vocals,
crushed
right?
egos. Can we
yeah.
talk about we love talking about on the show side A and side 1, side 2, side A, side B songs. We also could hang out all afternoon
I know.
and talk.
And talk about this. There's so much to talk about.
But we know we can't.
Yeah.
So, what are the songs that for you did something, or did it, or
Yeah,
maybe in the beginning
yeah,
didn't,
sure.
and then later on did?
I'll say listening to I Am a Pilgrim, I'm still like, sometimes there's that second song that I'm just like, I love you, but I'm not listening. Which, I don't know, maybe that's controversial, but you don't, Mr. Water has always been my favorite.
That's beautiful.
Hickory Wind absolutely makes me cry.
And a perfect opener of a side on a vinyl, like it's just, that's what you
get
want.
out of here.
It's like, well, we talk about like the Grand Slam, like punching the face.
Just like, no problem.
So, the Christian Life, so that is one of them where Parsons' vocals, where you can hear them in the background, but like McGuinn like re-record, and I don't really like, because it almost sounds like, well, it sounds like he's not enunciating life, so it sounds like he's saying, I love the Christian right. Or I like the Christian right.
Probably put a little twang on it.
And he also it's a
Louvin Brothers song, which I very much appreciate.
Right, but he sounds like he's almost. I don't know. It sounds.
Listen. Christian life and Christian right.
I know. So enunciate.
But now they're all, and just to use a term, they're born again. They literally talk about how now that has a different meaning in their lives.
Yeah.
And when I have always heard this, I'm like, that's a sarcastic, like, wah,
But I think that's McGuinn's vocals, because I don't think he feels.
I think it's both of them.
Right.
Yeah.
I just like McGuinn's vocals sound like he's almost like trying to sound real country. The other ones, it doesn't sound as much.
So you think it sounds?
It's a little forced.
I think it sounds kind of like he's kind of like.
Once you do that, it changes the dynamic of how you listen.
Yeah.
Like,
there's some strain on.
I don't want. We want things to sound so natural.
I mean, you want somebody. You want to feel the emotion behind what they're saying, and it sounds more like he's just putting on this country.
Yeah, that song I think is one that almost it doesn't ruin the album, but it's sort of like in Love Forever Changes, the song, and you see, and More Again. That song, that song's always like, God, if you just, I wish there's there's like,
I mean, it's like,
I feel like that was one, but.
When I hear Far Away Eyes by the Stones, he's clearly playing a character, but he's not forcing it, and I love that song.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm the truck driver driving down the road, and I love it. And like, so on here, it's like a lot of it. That part is too. Like, oh man, wait, tone it down
I'm
a bit.
interested because a lot of the songs that Parsons sang and then McGuinn redid, they came out later, right? They put them out, and I'd like, because I haven't heard that, and I'd like your take on which ones were better on the actual release, and which ones were.
That's kind of the confusing thing for me. Like growing up, I was born in '85, and so like I wasn't, anyway.
She's a baby.
She is a baby.
I shouldn't have divulged
that.
No,
that's okay.
That's great. That's great.
Oh, listen. Also, she's an old soul.
She's an old soul
with great taste in music.
With an advanced taste in music.
Cheers to that.
I got the grades. Anyway, but I think '97 is when the CD came out, and I just, in my head, I've always heard different versions of the songs and different songs that aren't on here. Like You've Got a Reputation. To me, that is the song that is like, why isn't that right there?
Why didn't it make the actual track listing?
And it's probably because it's too much Gram.
Was that one that was written? Because there were a couple that were written by Gram Parsons. That there were two. Most of all these, just so people know, most of all these are covers except for two, right? And then there were a couple Parsons songs that Parsons wrote that they did not include on here. So in the bonus tracks, or what is it that you can get, like the actual, like original?
You can buy the CD.
Then the CD has the original.
Well,
actually, there might be a double disc album.
Well, there clearly has been like remastered ones with other songs on it.
Well, they put out the original vocals. They put out the ones that had the Parsons vocals, right? On like. I'm sure. Later.
I honestly only have my dad's original copy, so like whatever else I've heard is just.
That's all you should have.
Yeah. Well, I would like to. Because Virginia probably knows, and I didn't get to hear any of these. But since most of the songs, all but two, were covers, do you want to talk about like the difference between the originals and what they did?
That's a little. I don't know.
Well, they're clearly like soul and gospel. And rock and roll songs that they did.
Two of them were Dylan songs that Dylan hadn't put out until didn't put out until after this album came out. And I think in the Dylan song, I forget which one it is. I forget what is it the 100 year? Is it? There was a Dylan song that once when the Byrds put it out, they actually like kind of changed the lyrics a little. So when Dylan put it out, he said, "You ain't going." Oh, it must be "You ain't going nowhere." You ain't going nowhere, McGuinn, because he changed this, and then
He's like, this is the way it was supposed to be.
It was supposed to be.
And also, don't mess with Dylan. Like
I think he meant it in play, though. I don't think he was really.
He's doing all right.
Yeah.
And I believe he's got a wicked sense of humor. I'm sure.
I think he was.
And every Byrds album had a certain amount of Dylan songs
Yes,
on it.
sure.
I always think of Hickory when I never
Hickory
read.
Wind is just.
Yeah, I never read a Gram Parsons book or anything, but I did read the Keith Richards book. And I remember all the sections he talks about Gram Parsons. And he says like, nobody could make people cry like Gram Parsons.
Yeah.
I think
Scorpio. Sorry.
Yeah, there's some. He had this. I mean, it's sad that he didn't stick around longer, obviously, but that even makes it even more.
Just shy of his 27th birthday, and I have been to where he was burned alive. They just for people out there, they literally stole his body in Joshua Tree, or like they went back to New Orleans, took it, burned it in Joshua Tree National Park, which is like
to try to cremate him, and it was like
Do you guys want shots?
one of his roadies.
Not
Do we have time for that?
not a bad way to
time
go.
for that?
Go get him. We got
Okay.
time.
But the whole deal is you can't really get hot enough to like they couldn't.
That's not.
It was
that's not how it works.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
That they,
But also
but yeah, kind of a burial at sea, but the opposite, like a
Thank
burial
you,
in the desert.
Jameson.
Thank you,
But
Jameson.
I'm sorry, may I talk about
yeah,
the 50th,
for sure.
like the 50th anniversary show? I want to Marty Stewart and his fabulous superlatives, who it's like
Love Marty Stewart.
Chris Scruggs, who's Earl Scruggs, I think nephew, just incredible. Kenny Vaughn, who is just incredible guitarist. The whole anyway, that show just like. Anyone who is there, if you can look it up somewhere, just watch it because the love that this album still brings to people and the people who play it. Ooh, I get chills. I mean, sincerely, it's like I really don't have anything else like that.
I mean, it's something that it did not get commercial success at the time, but it's something that retrospectively people look back and.
I mentioned to you, I'm currently residing in the mountains in Tennessee, and I suggest anyone if you can do it. Anyone if you can do it. It's been very peaceful and lovely, and I love it. But I'm a big fan of driving fast and blasting stuff. And this right here in the mountains in Tennessee, it might be the most perfect.
Well, I listened to this.
Driving through the mountains record.
I had
like the braille and arm hairs and everything.
I had to go to. Well, I went to North Carolina last weekend for a family event, and listened to this most of the way up there, most of the way back, and it's a pretty short album. It's like 32, 37 minutes. So it's like I listened to it a lot, and it's so good to just it's such a good album to listen to while you're driving.
It's like detoxing in a way.
It is. Yeah. It's just so, and I love the way. I haven't heard the originals of the songs, but or at least I don't know that I have, but I do suspect that the songs on here are a little bit more uplifting. Like they did still insert their vision of it. Like they actually did make it more country rock. Like it wasn't just flat out country. I mean, it definitely had a lot of different elements that made it.
Thank you. This is one of our best friends ever.
Yep.
Brian.
And sweetest humans
Thank you so
in
much.
the world. Brian Colantino,
Cheers.
Jackside Tavern. Thank you guys.
Appreciate y'all.
You are the best.
Thank
You are the best,
$1.50.
Virginia.
Cheers. Well,
And I
We had
really
time, or we had time?
we had a couple minutes.
I'm sad that I missed that album.
Talk about the record and close out.
All right, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was saying I'm sad I missed the show, but there is something very special about going to the desert in California and listening to these records.
Yeah, we were both out
Because
there around the same time.
if I've been,
I mean,
yeah,
you go
anytime
to
we
Joshua
go.
Tree. I mean, just
Yeah.
for.
I haven't been to Joshua
Oh,
Tree.
it's the best.
It's ancient. I mean,
It's like really-
It's spiritual.
Like you can feel
There's
like
so
that.
much beauty and well, listen. Best thing a person can do is try to search and try to make themselves better.
It's a place to
it's
search.
like going to Mars.
Yeah.
A little bit,
It's like
you know?
live for-
It kind of really is
like,
because you're like, is that sand or am I on a planet? And
Right.
There's a cactus and there's an old
there's
car that died in the 50s.
But there's a
and
lot of
that's it, you know.
there's a lot of like as far as like Native American, there's a real connection, like a real spiritual,
Huge, yes.
important connection with the area, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that always makes adds to the energy of a place.
Right.
I'm going to say Hickory Wind because.
For your favorite?
Yeah, there's just, everyone knows, and everyone's different, like what they love in a song. And also it certainly changes for every person, But right now, thank you for influencing me, inspiring me,
Are you kidding?
But thank you for picking this. But that just like has all the elements that like tingle me where I need to be tingled. That sounds disgusting.
It's the pedal
Sorry, but,
steel,
like,
man. Pedal
It
steel
really,
will do that.
it
thing.
really,
Yeah.
it really
It's
does.
just like, are you ready for
It sounds
this?
like crying.
It's
There's
beautiful.
just everything on it. I'm a huge fan of accents, and everything like is delayed, and there's accents right where they belong.
You mean not like linguistic accents, but you mean like
I mean,
like
I
you mean like
I just mean noise.
emphasis.
I mean
like
noise.
emphasis on
I
certain
mean
things,
noise,
or-
and I mean noise, and I know music is math, and if that one note was a half a second earlier, it would do
wouldn't-
nothing for
yeah.
me. James, you know exactly
yeah,
what I mean.
I know what you mean.
And it's
It's
like,
like
it's just
perfectly
unbelievable.
executed.
Every
Yeah.
every sound is where it's supposed to be. And how do you do that in the couple of minutes and just give us the world? Thank you, you aliens, for
Yeah.
giving us
That's
that.
the genius of it.
I love that. Country songs, even the saddest ones, where he's like talking about being in prison for
Yeah.
life for killing his wife. They still manage to make it sound
Sure.
uplifting.
Yes.
Like somehow, and I don't know if
Yeah.
it's just the steel. I don't think it's just because a lot of country has a steel, but the piano. I think a lot of it's the piano, which is
the
very
ballroom,
like
they call it
ding, ding, ding,
ballroom
like-
or saloon piano. There's that
uplifting.
wonderful
It's
meow effect. It's
It's like a soundtrack in itself, and I honestly thought that it was like made for a special purpose.
No,
and
I'm getting our like.
yeah.
It is. Like,
Yeah.
It really has, to
Like-
me, it's like every time I've listened to it
There's
for
magic
like
to it.
30 years, and I still just feel like I cry every time. Anyway.
Yeah,
And you're like 34.
It's just like-
you
it's
know?
like-
So you've been listening to us since you came out of your mother's womb. We want to thank. We want to thank.
That is really, really cute because we're talking about like normally we're talking about albums that like we liked in like high school or like this or that, and it's like I've been listening to this since I
No,
was
well,
little. It's so
so
cute.
it just shows you that music, one, certainly can be magic,
And
but it's spiritual.
It does.
And because I mean, you mentioned church a couple of times, and I'm not religious, but I am
That's what
spiritual.
music is, it's
And
church.
there's
it's a
so many
spiritual
It's healing, yeah.
wonderful like things in it that even if like Cassie said, something that's saying like maybe this down thing,
Yeah.
but it builds you up.
Yeah,
And
well,
you
I
want
think
it to
that,
build you up.
but I think that that's a magic that they did on this album, and I think it was what they were kind of going for, was trying to get the young. Well, Gram Parsons really wanted the younger people
Yeah.
to get interested in country and actually show how country can be.
Yeah.
And so
by
they
the way, he
did-
was like 21, 22.
I know he was a
That
little
I mean,
kid,
it's
tiny.
ridiculous.
Tiny.
upsetting.
That
Yeah.
is disturbing,
I mean,
ridiculous. We're
he
jealous.
had
like,
a
yeah.
vision, and he really
Yeah.
did it. Like he
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah,
I'm gonna
that's
join the Boards.
that's
I'm gonna.
actually-
I know.
That's
Like maybe.
That's insane. Like that is really.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Do you have any favorites? Oh, did we talk about your favorites?
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
We all
might
have our
be-
we're
yeah, we're
it's
getting
all
like really
good.
close. Do you have any favorites, really quick?
I love Hickory Wind.
I like it
man.
all. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it
It's
really
just
is.
like, especially in the kind of coming. I've lived in the South. I've lived here since I was 11, so I kind of think I've been here long
Jersey
enough.
boy, Jersey boy.
Jersey,
down south.
but then moved down here, and so there is a certain amount of like feeling when you listen to Hickory Wind. There is a certain amount of like Southern sort of feeling to it that I.
Which is,
of
well,
what
that's
it's
another.
like.
You could do an episode on that. How do these California dudes
I know,
represent the South better
Right?
than
It's
better
sorta
than people
like-
from the
The
South?
same way that-
you know
It's sort of like
The same way that
Credence
they're like the
talking
Stones
about.
or
They're,
whatever.
you're from California.
New
like, what do you
Yorkers
know
couldn't
about
pull.
the South?
New Yorkers couldn't pull it off.
Yeah.
But the West, like it had to be in that desert and then the mountains. They channeled this thing.
Yeah.
Also probably the psychedelics, let's be real.
Let's be honest. Drugs can be awesome if you allow them. You know.
Okay. You want to do the?
Right.
I just want to like.
You don't want to do a letter?
I just want to talk about love and life and music, and
Okay.
and in a minute or two, thank this lady for your choice.
Absolutely. Thank this lady.
absolutely
She
wonderful.
was, it was guaranteed she was going to be a guest.
Well, you know, we were chatting earlier, and she's like, "I was so nervous. Thanks for having me." I'm like, "Well, no, we're honored to have
I mean,
you."
like, yeah.
You know,
I love you guys.
When we
Appreciate it.
came up with this idea, well, it happened here. So big ups to Brian and Trackside again.
You came
But
up with
it
it,
was
right?
just like, you know, what's important, and this, and also let's be honest. And again, we're trying to be conscientious of our fellow humans. This year has taught us so much. But it's also taught us what we thought was important, half of it's not.
Right.
Is that okay to say
And,
that?
no, because,
so music,
if I
family, and love.
Yeah.
All I need is that, and I'm good.
That's
You
kind of
know.
when I walked in here, and I like really, I've been a big part of the Atlanta music community for as long as as long as I could be.
Yeah.
And I really have not been out at all, and since the beginning of 2020. And
Yeah.
so when I walked in here and I saw you guys, and of course I watched the episodes, but
Thank
just
you.
like this makes me remember why I care about music. It's to
Oh.
talk to people. It's because we share the same love for it, and stuff changes your lives. It saves your life.
Yeah, it's
So-
like
okay, here we go. Here we go.
Music saves. Music
Let's be sure
saves.
also to mention you DJ, right? Like you
Yeah.
DJ some.
Yeah, Argosy is so nice to have me sometimes, and
Okay,
yeah,
well I just want to I just
Armando,
want
the Argosy,
anybody
you were there
Yeah,
last
thanks,
night.
viewing to be like, yeah, Virginia
love
has
the Argosy.
Virginia has impeccable. She does
Y'all.
impeccable
Unreal.
taste in
What?
music, and she DJs. So it's like if you are in the Atlanta area, definitely go check it out
Yeah,
because you're
that-
going
that's
to
the other
see
thing. When we have a
amazing-
guest, we want to plug any projects
We
they're working
definitely-
on.
I mean-
that's huge to us.
I mean, really, all the guests we have
Thank
great
you,
taste in music.
Brian.
That's part of
Thank you,
it.
Thanks,
Matt.
you guys.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Billy.
Thank you, Gram
Dave.
Parsons.
Thank you, Gram
the
Parsons.
Birds.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Thanks,
everybody.
Birds.
Everybody.
Thanks, Virginia.
Love you.
Thank you, Virginia.
Thank you, rock and roll. Thank you, life. I mean,
Thank you, country music.
Cheers.
Thank you, cosmic American music.
We'll see you guys
Right.
next time. Be good to each other.
Yep.
Wear your mask.
Wear your masks.